Welcome everyone to Selenium training by Whizdom Trainings. Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to take a tour of the course Selenium with Python. But before directly jumping to the course content, let us discuss some of the frequently asked questions, and I have some of the questions over here. So let's just get started. The very first question that comes to me is that I am a very new person to this programming field. I am not aware about it. Will I be able to learn this tool? So the answer to this question is yes. You can learn the tool very easily. What you need to know, what you need to learn before learning the Selenium tool is the basics of programming language, which is Python in our case, right? Which is Python in our case. So from where you have to start learning it? From where you have to start learning it? So the answer to that question is that on the site on selenium.com, seleniumtraining.com, over here in the Python training course details, you will find a number of modules given over here. So starting from the introduction to Python, it goes on till writing into Excel files. Till this point, these all are Python basics, starting from the object-oriented programming till the concepts like inheritance, encapsulation, the data structures which are supported in Python language, how to write into the Excel files, how to read the data from the from the Excel files, that all are covered over here in these 10 modules. Along with as many as lectures are there in a particular module, the timing is also been provided that how much time will it take for you to see the video and then you have to practice it. Fine. So the very first step you have to do if you are a fresh person to the programming language, even if you have little information or you have the information about the language, it will be a revision for all of you. Okay. So this is the first thing that you have to do. After that, the next question that comes up over here is, let me just clear this. Yeah. So the next question that comes up is that how much time it's going to take to learn Selenium, the tool. So it can be a possibility that you are learning the tool just for the sake of knowledge. That there is a tool which you want to learn. So that is a possibility. And also it could be a possibility that you are learning the tool to crack some interview. Fine. So there is different timelines for both. If you are learning it just for the sake of knowledge, then 4 weeks are more than sufficient to learn the tool. But if you are learning Selenium to crack interviews, then you need to get some time for it. Around minimum 10 weeks are required to reach a level of professionalism and to get the hand on the tool, because you will be sitting in front of a person who has a n number of experience years on this tool. So you need to get the hand on the tool and that you will get by spending some time with the tool, practicing the tool and getting knowledge about it. Fine. So 10 weeks are minimum required with the effort and the practice. Then comes up that which particular projects are covered in the course. So Selenium provides you a number of projects or frameworks that you can build on. But over here in this course right now, there are two frameworks which are covered, that is data-driven framework and hybrid framework. In these two frameworks, all the requirements and objectives, whichever needs to be achieved while building a project, they all are covered and in detail they are explained as well. Right now only two are there in the course, but by coming time, more of the projects will be introduced very soon. Okay. Now, the next question that comes is, what is PyTest? Okay. So right now till time I have not discussed anything about PyTest or the divisions of the course. So before answering this question, let's just discuss and understand the divisions of the course. So the course that we are talking about, Selenium with Python, it's divided into three parts. The first part is the Python basics that we have just seen, that which particular modules come under this part. Okay, then after you complete the Python basics part, then you come up with a framework which is specifically for writing the test cases. And that framework is nothing but PyTest. Okay, I'll tell you what PyTest actually is, but just for the sake of information, I'm telling you how the divisions are made. And then after, when you have the information about the basics of Python and the PyTest, then comes up the main content, that is the Selenium commands. And at the end, when you have all the knowledge about the Selenium commands, then you reach up a point where projects are. Fine, so this is how the course has been divided. Now you must be wondering that why this PyTest is between Python basics and Selenium commands. So I'll tell you this now. Let's just discuss this concept now. So I'll just will open up a new notepad. And I'll clear this. Okay, now suppose someday some client comes up and asks you to automate 5,000 test cases at some URL. So what you will do is, with the knowledge of the programming language and the Selenium commands, you will start writing the test cases normally. Right, you will make one test case, then second, then fourth, and so on. If I'll name them as well, this is my first test case, then I have my second test case, third, fourth, and likewise I have 5,000 test cases more. Okay, now over here 5,000 test cases are individually in different files. So there are two things. First is handling the data that you will be using in the test cases, and secondly is what is the actual result of the test case, what actually happened in the test case. Fine. So firstly, let's discuss the result. There are 5,000 test cases. No one can sit in front of the system taking a pen and paper and noting down all the details at what happened in what particular test case. That is not practically right, and you will not be able to share the reports as well. So to handle that, what you can do is, in your test case, you can generate HTML reports. You can give the command to generate HTML reports. Now when I talk about reports, the reports should be so informative that if someone new person is looking at the report, that person by just looking into the report can understand what the test case is about. Fine, so it should have proper logs, proper messages, proper screenshots, wherever they are required. They should be proper in place. Fine, so this is a must. This is very important. Okay, and then comes the data. Now suppose in test case 1 you are using some another data. In test case 2 you are using some another data. So as in another test cases you are using separate data. Fine. So it is a possibility that in all the test cases there is some common data as well that is being used, like the URL. Right. So that is also important to handle the data in a proper way. If I talk about the data now, so we have different type of datas. One data that comes up is the frequently changing data. That is up to the demand of the test case, that what data is required in the test case. It may change by the time or by the test case's requirement. Fine. And second is the non-changing data, that is constant throughout the test, throughout the beginning, non-changing data. So what we can do is, we can just keep these two types of data in external files, like you can keep it in XLS files, you can keep it in properties file, there is CSV format as well. You can keep the data in these files, and if there is some common data, that will be picked up from here and will be sent to the test case. You don't have to write it again, you don't have to pass it again manually. Plus, if you are changing it by the time, if you are changing some data, then you don't have to change it at every occurrence of it. You can just change it in the common file, and wherever the occurrence is, the change will be applied. So this is the use of keeping the data at a separate location. Okay. Now these two are just the requirements that you need to have in your project for your sake also, to handle and maintain the test cases. Fine. Now comes the requirement from the clients. Now this is something very important. It could be constant, it could be common requirements as well, it could be different requirements as well. Like for example, client says that skipping of test cases should be conditionally. Skipping test cases on condition. That could be a requirement from the client. Then you should be able to optionally run the test cases. Out of 5,000 test cases, 100 test cases failed. Rerun the failed test cases only. Then I may have a requirement to implement grid. Now grid is a structure that is used for parallel executions on different machines at the same time. Fine, I'm not going into the depth of this topic right now because it itself is a big topic and needs a proper explanation and implementation. So I'm not going into this right now. The same way, there are two other terms, and they are implement Jenkins and Git. These two terms might sound new to you. You don't have any information about this, and I'm not even going into the details of it right now. The reason is, again, they are itself a big topic and they need a proper introduction, information and implementation, so that you will get to know once you reach at that point. Fine. Now these are the requirements that you need to have in your project. But over here in the test cases, here is our Selenium. This is our Selenium. And this Selenium, this particular part is not going to help you to generate any report. This part is not going to help you to generate any report, nor to fetch the data, and nor to implement these things. Selenium is actually not going to help you to do any of these. So how you are going to achieve these objectives, how you are going to achieve these? So over here you will be requiring a centralized controller over here, which will help me the test case will come over here to the centralized controller. From this controller, the data will be read according to the test case. Once the test case is run, this controller only is going to help me to generate the reports and to achieve the objectives, because using this controller only I'll be able to achieve the things like skipping the test cases, optionally running them, implementing the grid and all. So this controller is going to help me. Now what is this controller? The question comes up. This controller is nothing but the framework that we discussed, that is PyTest. The whole role is here for PyTest. The test case will be running and Using this PyTest only, the data will be read from the external files. Once the test case is completed with the data, the PyTest is going to run the, to generate the reports and implement all these things. So that is the reason why PyTest is kept between the Selenium commands and the Python basics. The same way, here I am telling you the flow, the same way it's divided over here in the site over here. We have seen the Python basics, right? After that, we come up with the modules. Let me clear this. Then we comes up with the part of PyTest. Now starting from this module till next 5 modules, customizing LUA reports. These 5 modules contains the full information that how you can get the PyTest in your system, how you can group them, how you can generate the reports, how you can add logs, screenshots inside. All the informations are inside these 5 modules. Fine. Once you are done with this part, you come up with the next module, that is the project structure. You can see over here the project structure. This project structure is basically a kind of demonstration of the real project. Just that in this project structure, the Selenium commands are not included. It's just with the use of Python commands and the PyTest. Just by the use of these 2 topics, the structure has been created. You can watch this video. This is suggested to be watched first before moving to the Selenium commands, because it's going to clear a number of doubts out of your mind. Okay. Now once you are done with this, then you comes up to the heart of the course, that is the Selenium commands. Now the Selenium command starts from this particular topic and goes on till this. Now this is just looking like these are 7 modules of Selenium. But if you'll open this, any of these, if you'll hover this down and click on see more options, there are a number of topics which are included in a particular module. Like over here in handling frames, if I'll go to see more, these are the options. These are the topics. So as much time as it's going to take you to cover these particular modules are given over here with the number of videos inside. So do watch them carefully, but don't watch them just like sitting idle. Listen to them, sit with your computer ready, practice them, and then move on with the next topic. Fine. Once it is done, then you come back. Then you finally reach at the point where the frameworks are. Data-driven framework and the hybrid framework. Okay. Again, these are the explained frameworks which contains all the objectives, how to achieve them, what's the flow that is going on, how the data is flowing. That's all covered over here. Fine. In between, if you face any issue, you got stuck at some point, need not to worry. Over at the site, when you log in, at the left hand side, you will find an option of query resolution forum. So at that query resolution forum, what you can do is you can just post your questions, your doubts, or if you are stuck at some point, you can just post them there and you will be answered with the information. Okay. So this was all for this video. Thank you.